Okay, today we have Surya Bedhana Pranayama. Which is described in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, chapter 2, Sutra 48. Then Surya Bedhana is described. Assuming asana on a comfortable seat, the yogin should slowly draw in the energy outside through the right nadi. You understand what is described? Pingala, or the right channel, is responsible for Shakti energy. This sutra tells us that Surya Bedhana starts with inflow of Shakti. Surya Bedhana means piercing the sun, which is, of course, the sun gate. Surya Bindu in the center of Muladhara Chakra. So if you know all that, it all starts making sense. (49) Then you should practice Kumbhaka, retaining the energy to the utmost till it is felt from the hair on the head, if you have some left, to the ends of the nails, pervading the whole body. Then you should slowly release the energy through the left nadi, Ida. First, the Kumbhaka stage is described, which you shouldn't take literally, but what you take from this is that after Shakti inflow, during the count to 80, you spread the energy throughout your whole body. Then, the outflow is described here. Slowly release the energy through the left nadi, Ida, which is responsible for Shiva energy. So, Shiva out. And of course followed by the second Kumbhaka. Basically nothing new here, because it's the same as the first cycle of Nadi Shodhana Pranayama. Shakti in, Kumbhaka, Shiva out, Kumbhaka. That's it. Only one cycle. So you have only one cycle, that means you have a lot more time to meditate. Now I like to draw your attention, both Sutra 48 and 49 use the word gradual or slowly. Taking the energy slowly through the right channel. Let out the energy slowly through the left channel. Yoga does not work when we rush things. When we do asana, we stand still. The longer, the better. Unless, of course, you feel pain or any other disturbance, then it doesn't work anymore. Meditation, you do in silence. And you take your time. Because meditation is a natural process in which your senses detach from external influences and more turn inwards. The meditation is not difficult. The only difficult thing is to sit long enough to actually let it work. Pranayama, same. If you rush through the counting and the inflow and the outflow, it won't affect you so much. It won't have so much effect on you. Do it slowly, gradually. You have 35 minutes. You can use at least half of that to perform this cycle. Sutra 49:50 describes an exercise always ends with description of the benefits. So that's Sutra 50. This excellent Surya Bedhana should again and again be practiced, as it purifies the brain, destroys diseases arising from excess of wind, and cures maladies caused by worms. Yoga, if you understand what you're looking at, is very logical and very, very systematic. Human beings naturally have a tendency to be in a tamas condition, energy contracting. We have prepared for this by cleansing the energy channels to increase their capacity. Now we go to work with the system yoga provides, and we start with, no surprise, Shakti domination, because we naturally have a tendency to be in tamas. If you want to be in sattva, which is the condition in which meditation naturally occurs, samadhi eventually occurs, sattva, it's 1 and 1 is 2. If you're naturally in tamas, you add Shakti, where do you end up? In sattva. Can you see that? Because tamas is Shiva domination. And you destroy Shiva domination by adding Shakti, the opposing force. I have practiced yoga for so many years. If I do Surya Bedhana Pranayama, it actually makes me restless. Why? Because I'm relatively sattvic to some extent. If I add Shakti, I become rajas, not sattvic. So there is an evolution in your practice. In the beginning, you need Surya Bedhana. You need to pierce the sun in order to counter that tendency to be in a tamas condition. Over time, you recondition. Naturally, you will be more and more inclined to be somewhere in the middle, relatively sattvic. Then things change. You need another pranayama when your condition has changed. So when you're in tamas, you do Surya Bedhana, you end up in a nice sattva that will then allow you to meditate the remainder of the time. If you have practiced yoga for an extended period of time and have become relatively sattvic, you do Surya Bedhana, it leads actually to a rajas condition. There are 8 pranayamas, including Surya Bedhana, after Nadi Shodhana. They have a very logical build-up if you understand what you're looking at. So I will, like I do now, I will emphasize exactly what the logic is behind the next exercise. It purifies the brain. You know what that means? Try to imagine society 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years ago, when 99.9% of the people did not have the benefit of education. So, meaning no intellectual development. People were dumb, so to speak. Lacking intelligence, intellect. Purifying the brain is awakening the intellect. It's not about cleaning something, cleansing something. It's about providing fuel to the brain to make it work. Not with education, with books, with study, but by fueling it. And then study will happen naturally. Remember, the first step is yoga, in a practical sense, which leads to an awakening of the intellect, and naturally you start exploring, investigating yourself and the world around you and the universe. That is where horoscopy, or what is the other horoscopy? The knowledge of the stars and the astrology, that is where astrology comes from. It's one of the oldest sciences in the world. It's a science that occurs spontaneously because people awakening the intellect with, for example, Surya Bedhana, with yoga practice or any other kind of practice, not by studying books, they didn't exist yet. People started contemplating out of curiosity. And it became a very extensive science, astrology. The people who developed astrology even saw human beings being inherent part of that universe, and how the movement of the stars influences how we function, how we develop even into the future. So that is purification of the brain, activating of intellect. Destroys diseases arising from excess of wind. Those are wind diseases are tamas diseases of the throat and the heart chakras, the ether and air levels, but tamas related diseases, which are all the heart diseases, lung diseases, the most common causes of death, heart and lung disease, followed by cancer. Maladies caused by worms. What is that? Infections. Surya Bedhana, increasing Shakti, decreasing Shiva, leads to heat. Of course, the difference in body temperature is marginal, tens of degrees. You should see this in tens of degrees, not in degrees. But it is a natural antibiotic. Infections, the body fights infections, how? With fever, with heat. So if you have control of energies that enable you to increase heat, which you do on a very subtle level, you will have less infectious diseases, less infections. That is what maladies caused by worms means. Infections. Questions? Let's just give it a try.
Ron, what do you mean by piercing the sun? What do you mean? Like, what am I supposed to be visualizing?
Piercing the sun is an indication of the quality of this exercise. The sun is the sun, Surya Bindu, sun gate, which is the entrance of Shakti energy. Shakti energy, Kundalini energy. So, forget about the name, but focus on that inflow of Shakti energy, which in the Kriya exercises we try to visualize by sucking up water. And the more intense you can do that, the better. piercing the sun. The significance of the name is, of course, that it indicates that many people's sun is obstructed. The energy condenses towards the bottom without a counter power which needs to come through the sun. So we pierce the sun. We recondition our body's ability to take in Shakti energy, which will then work as a counter force to that natural condensation taking place. People who practice yoga regularly for an extended period of time are less inclined to be in a tamas condition because you have pierced the sun. But while you do the exercise, forget about the name. Focus on the practical action of taking the energy. Yeah? So one cycle, don't repeat it, just one cycle. The rest of the time, you concentrate on nada. Keep in mind that you have a lot more time now compared to Nadi Shuddhana Pranayama, so do not rush through the steps. Okay?